So a common question that I receive is how often and how should you clean your hamster's enclosure? Because for many years it's been common knowledge that you are supposed to clean your hamster's cage once a week. You remove all of the old bedding, you scrub down the base with some soap and water, and you refill that with clean and fresh bedding. But since then, it's been learned that this method is actually very stressful and unnecessary for the hamster. Removing all of the bedding in your hamster's enclosure is removing all of the familiar scent to them. Then you're replacing it with brand new clean bedding. Therefore, it's making it unfamiliar to them. So basically, it's like the enclosure is a completely new enclosure to them. There actually was a university professor who did a study on hamsters, and they measured their heart rate in response to different stressful situations. One of those situations actually happened to be cleaning the hamster's entire enclosure out. They actually observed that the heart rate increased by 150 beats per minute, and it took over an hour for the hamster to calm down after. There can be a couple of factors when it comes to figuring out how and when you should clean your hamster's enclosure. One being the size of the enclosure. The larger the enclosure, the less often you are going to have to clean the enclosure. Of course, the smaller the enclosure, the easier it is to get soiled faster. Factor number 2 is that most hamsters are clean and organized animals, so they tend to choose a couple of areas where they are going to consistently go to the bathroom and pee there. So this makes cleaning the enclosure a lot easier because there are only going to be a couple of spots that you are going to need to clean out. Of course, not every hamster is like this, and some choose to pee everywhere. There are quite a few different cleaning methods to choose from, but any cage above 450 square inches of floor space should never be cleaned out more than once a month. When it does come time to do your clean out of your hamster's enclosure, you really are only going to want to do a half clean. This involves you just removing half of the soiled bedding, not all of it. You do want to leave at least half of the bedding in there because that is a familiar smell to them. If you find that your cage is still fairly clean, you can choose to take out just a smaller section of the bedding. You don't have to take out half. You can do a little bit less. 1/3 works as well. Essentially, the most important part of cleaning a hamster's enclosure is removing the pee, because pee is wet and anything wet can grow bacteria very easily. So that is the most important thing that you are removing, is any soiled pee spots. This is actually one of the reasons spot cleaning is so important, because it actually can save you from having to do full clean outs. So every couple of days you want to be spot cleaning, which just involves you looking for any soiled spots in the enclosure and just removing those out. And a lot of hamsters actually use their wheel and sand bath for going pee in, so it actually makes spot cleaning a lot easier if they do have select spots like that. Now, when it comes to hamster poop, it really isn't too much of a big deal or an issue, because hamster poop isn't squishy and soft. It actually is hard and quite dry, so once hamster poop comes out, it basically becomes inert. Of course, if you see an area in your enclosure that has more hamster poop in it, you can of course remove that. But if you see 3 poops in the entire enclosure, it's not a big deal, and it doesn't mean your hamster's enclosure is dirty. Since poop is so lightweight, it tends to actually fall to the bottom of the enclosure. So what I find helpful is just taking a dustpan and scooping the bedding from the bottom, and this makes the poop fall to the bottom. And then you can quickly sweep up any large amounts of poop and you can get rid of that. If you are someone who has a hamster that tends to kind of just pee all over the bedding, you can just remove the first top layer of the bedding and then add more new bedding in. For my hamster Bumble, there's really only 2 places in her enclosure that I tend to clean out, and that would be her nest/burrows and sand bath, because those are the places she chooses to pee in. So since she does choose to pee in her nest/burrows, I wait until she is fully awake and out of her nest, and then I kind of carefully go in there and try to get out any of the pee. I do this every couple days or once a week because it is her nest and burrows. I really don't want to destroy those too much, but of course you don't want your hamster to be sleeping and laying in their own pee. Keep in mind, all of this can be disregarded if your hamster has anything like parasites, mites, fleas, ringworm, anything like that, because you really want to have a clean enclosure while treating them for those parasites and fungal infections, because it can very easily reinfect your hamster if the enclosure isn't 100% clean. So I really hope this has been able to answer everyone's question about how you should clean your hamster's cage and how often you should do it, because it is a little bit confusing to try and explain to someone, and it's not as easy as just cleaning it out once a week. So yeah guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Bye! Did you want to be in the video? Say hi! Say hi guys, I'm big. Oh, where are you going? You're too big to do this. Excuse me. Ah, your butt is in my face! Sadie, what are you doing?